Good afternoon, everyone. Just need to start with the election of the chair. So I'm going to call for Peter Balfe, our legal advisor, to call for a nomination and a seconder.
I nominate Councillor Emily Strudwick.
And I second.
Thank you. So welcome everyone. I'm Councillor Emily Strudwick. A bit of housekeeping safety information. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room and public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble at Queen Victoria's statue in front of the civic offices in order to comply with the Guildhall Trust fire marshal regulations. Anyone who signed in at the Guildhall reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. Please can everyone use the microphones and remember to switch them off when they have finished. If I can get my members to introduce themselves, starting from the left.
Councillor Benedict Swan, Copner and Anchorage Park Ward.
Councillor George Magic of the Paulsgrove Ward.
And then if I can get everyone else to introduce themselves, starting from Peter.
Peter Bell, City Solicitor, thank you.
Jane Didino, Local Democracy Officer.
Derek Stone, Principal Licensing Officer.
PC Peter James Vincent, Police Alcohol Licensing Officer for Portsmouth.
And is there any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. I think just for the avoidance of doubt, because our City Solicitor, Peter Balfe, mentioned it in the preliminary hearing a few weeks ago, that obviously both myself and Councillor Strudwick are in a relationship, but that's the only interest to declare.
And then if I could get the licensing manager to present their case, please. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, members. So this, in effect, is the second part of the summary review application instigated by the police in relation to the pitch and vinyl 2 London Road, North End. You will recall that the three of you sat on the interim steps hearing on the 4th of August in response to a summary review application submitted on behalf of the Chief Officer of Police by PC Vincent, who is here this afternoon to address you further. The summary review was instigated following a serious assault and disorder connected to the premises in the early hours of Sunday the 30th of July, and this resulted in a male sustaining a serious head injury, and again PC Vincent can update you further on that shortly. With regard to the premises licence, it became apparent from inquiries made that there were several serious breaches with regard to the upholding of the premises licence conditions. These were in relation to the CCTV, staff training, and the intoxicated condition of customers present. And again, PC Vincent will expand on that. On the basis that the premises were associated with serious crime or disorder, or both, the summary review was commenced. At the interim steps hearing, you took the decision to suspend the premises licence pending this hearing today, and you also removed the designated premises supervisor. For clarity, members, at the time of the interim steps hearing, although the premises licence showed Enrico Labina as the DPS, he had not worked at the venue for at least a year, and on the 25th of July 2023, a change of DPS was submitted to the local authority for the new DPS for the venue to become a Paul Killen. So Paul Killen is removed as a DPS from this premises licence as a result of your interim steps hearing. Once the interim steps hearing has taken place, a review hearing must follow, and at this hearing it is recommended that the committee adopt a staged approach. That is to consider the application for the review and any relevant representations, consider and take such steps, if any, as considered appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, and to consider whether any of the interim steps that you've previously imposed shall cease to have effect or should remain in place. The committee can make the following steps. You can modify the conditions of the premises licence. You can exclude licensable activities from the scope of the licence. You've already removed the DPS. You can suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, or you can revoke the licence. Members should also be aware that the Act provides that where a decision is reached either to modify the conditions of a premises licence or to exclude licensable activities from the scope of the licence, the committee may provide that such modification or exclusion is to have effect only for a specified period not exceeding 3 months. After the consideration of any interim steps, the licensing authority must review the premises licence at a subsequent meeting, which is why we're here today. The meeting cannot be adjourned or put back, as is the case with other prescribed hearings under the Act. It also cannot be avoided by way of negotiation or withdrawal of representations. Members, when determining the summary review application, you must have regard to the promotion of the licensing objectives, which, as you know, are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. You also have to be aware of your adopted statement of licensing policy, judgments of the High Court, which your legal advisor can assist you on, the current statutory guidance issued by the Home Secretary in accordance with Section 182 of the Act, the representations including supporting information presented by all parties, the human rights of all parties concerned to ensure both a fair and balanced hearing, and the public sector equality duty requiring public bodies to have due regard to. Members, in my report, if I can just draw your attention to paragraphs 1121 and 1122 of my report. 1121 says, this is once you're looking at the review process, for example, licensing authorities should be alive to the possibility that removal and replacement of a designated premise supervisor may be sufficient to remedy a problem where the cause of the identified problem directly relates to poor management decisions made by that individual. Paragraph 1122 goes on, equally it may emerge that poor management is a direct reflection of poor company practice or policy, and the mere removal of the designated premises supervisor may be an inadequate response to the problems presented. Indeed, where subsequent review hearings are generated by representations, it should be rare merely to remove a succession of designated premises supervisors, as this would be a clear indication of deeper problems that impact upon the licensing objectives. Members, I did make contact with the licence holder via her partner, and I was advised that they would be in attendance here today, along with the DPS that had been removed, but there is no show. I mean, I've had no direct contact with the premises licence holder at any stage of these proceedings. If I can assist you any further, I will. Thank you.
Members, is there any other questions you want to start? Yeah.
Just a point more for clarification than anything. At the beginning of section 3, it says pitch and vinyl, formerly known as the Blue Anchor. That should be the other way around, surely.
Is actually shown on the premises licence as the pitch and vinyl. So for years and years and years, the premises has been known as the Blue Anchor, if that helps.
It's only just that it's now the Blue Anchor again, and it has been for, well, I believe when this issue took place, it's actually Blue Anchor.
That may be the case, but as far as we have on our record and our database, it's still showing as pitch and vinyl.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be any problems with that.
It's definitely 2 London Road, I can assure you of that.
So in relation to, obviously you've pointed out the paragraph there, in relation to that, has there been previous DPSs that have been removed from the property, and has the licence had a large history of problems in the past, or is this a first review?
Well, the police can probably expand on that, but it's been a venue that we've been aware of for some time. There have been issues, there have been previous warnings in relation to licence breaches, etc. But obviously the new premises licence holder was not the premises holder at that time.
I mean, in your experience, Derek, how many times have we had situations where places have reopened and the new owners have not bothered to obviously change the DPS or that kind of stuff? Is that a thing that we've come up with before? Is this kind of a once in a lifetime?
I think it's fair to say if you have a venue that's on our radar or the police radar, they will change names, they will move new DPSs in, change licence holders, that sort of thing. It does happen.
Thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Is there any other members that want to ask any questions? Okay, then I will go on to the responsible authorities.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. As you're aware, the summary review was called and submitted under the grounds of serious crime and disorder for the offences of GBH with intent. A summary review of premises licence is not a decision that is taken lightly by the police, but in this case, the risk of serious crime and disorder and a lack of management of the premises was so significant that we had no other option. To allow this premises to continue to trade would have been negligent on our part and was a risk that we were unwilling to take. Following this and the meeting with the committee, interim steps were agreed on the 4th of August with the suspension of the premises licence and removal of the DPS. If I may, I'll briefly go through the incident that led us to that, but as you're aware, and I know you've already seen the information around that incident, if there's any questions at the end, please just ask. So on the 30th of July, between 00:45 and 01:30 hours, there was an altercation at the Blue Anchor / Pitch and Vinyl, London Road, Portsmouth. 2 males were involved in the altercation, and one of the males was asked to leave the premises as he was intoxicated. He had been refused further service after the SIA had pointed out to bar staff that he was unsteady on his feet and annoying other customers. A short time later, the injured male, as I'll refer to him now, has left the premises and got outside and been involved in an altercation with another male that he'd been seen talking to earlier. At this point, the 2 males began fighting and 2 punches were thrown at the injured person, one which led to him hitting his head on the floor and he was knocked unconscious. The injured male sustained a skull fracture and a bleed on the brain as a result of that assault. The victim was conveyed to Queen Alexandra Hospital and then on to Southampton General Hospital Specialist Trauma Unit. The ambulance crew stated in their report that due to the level of intoxication being so high, it was extremely difficult to assess whether or not the injured party, whether it was as a result of the injury and that he was not responding as he should be. And that's a really key point for me, that intoxication was so high in the injured person that we didn't know if it was a medical caused problem or it was down to drunkenness. Police were called by the SIA a short time later, and on police attendance, the premises appeared to be out of control. There were a number of people that had left the premises and there were arguments taking place all around the attending officers. While the injured person was in the ambulance, another fight started between 2 groups who had been in the premises, and the persons involved all appeared heavily intoxicated. In relation to that incident, that's been classified by police as an affray, and we have 2 suspects who have been identified from that, and we're just awaiting an outcome. But this incident has kicked off in the scene where the GBH took place. So the key part for me is we have lost all of that evidence that we would have had for a GBH assault because there was 15 to 20 people going through that scene. So forensically, there is nothing that we can gain from that. Staff at the premises at the time were unable to provide CCTV upon initial request, a condition of the licence, and staff were unaware of how to operate the CCTV system and access because it was password protected. Again, that is covered on the premises licence. The staff did not have access to the password, and when police were finally able to view the CCTV, we were advised that it wasn't working and it wasn't linked to the internet. Police licensing team have been awaiting updates on the investigation. On the 1st of August, were notified by the OIC, the officer in the case, that contact had been made with the management at the premises, who advised that CCTV was not in operation on the night of the serious injury. The conditions on the licence are clear on the responsibilities of the premises to maintain the system regularly, to provide access when requested, and ensure all operators are trained to use the system. A previous occupant at the premises has been cautioned for breach of those offences, not under this management, but that would lead me to believe that they have remained with the existing system that was in place when this person was cautioned in, I believe, 2019, July 2019. A number of reasons have been given for the failure of the CCTV system, but it seems to centre around a disagreement between the previous and current management teams and a clear lack of training. The premises already has clear and robust CCTV conditions on its premises licence, which have been breached. It does now appear that some CCTV has been recovered, but this has required specialist IT professionals to produce it. The CCTV that was provided to police was not for the times requested. So the times on the CCTV were not accurate, and therefore the footage provided did not cover the offence. On top of this, a key camera was not working on the night in question, which would have covered the offence. A further request was made for the correct CCTV within 3 days of us obtaining the original, but this has not been provided as it was overridden as the system only stores for 7 days. The CCTV should have a capacity to store footage for 31 days as per the premises licence, but this is not the case. We've lost this evidence from the incident and it now will never be able to be recovered. Making contact with the DPS at the premises has been extremely difficult. We've been advised that the premises licence holder lives in London and has not been to the premises for some time. We have also been advised this is the first time that the premises has opened in 6 months. At this time, it appears that neither the DPS nor the premises licence holder were in attendance at the premises when it reopened on the 29th or 30th of July. The DPS that we have on paper, Paul Killen, was removed by yourselves as part of the interim steps. Mr. Killen is also shown as the DPS at 3 other premises, 2 of which are not in Portsmouth but are in Andover, which begs the question how you can manage 4 premises and keep an eye on all of them at the same time. As part of our process, we will be submitting evidence of these 136 licensing offences to Portsmouth City Council licensing team for consideration of further action to be taken against the DPS as a personal licence holder. On further investigation, there are numerous breaches of the premises licence. During a police licensing visit on the 1st of August, staff training records were requested. These were not available, and the reason provided was that the staff had been trained at another premises prior to their employment. When asked about the premises licence and its conditions during this meeting on the 1st of August, it was stated that the persons present had not seen the premises licence. The key part from this is that Mr. Killen, the DPS, was present during that meeting, so he hadn't seen the premises licence, but thought it was okay to open the premises without knowing what the conditions were. The police have serious concerns about the management of this premises and their lack of responsibility to customers and staff. There are clear licensing offences being committed at the premises. I called Mr. Killen on the 4th of August at 1400 hours on his mobile. I left him a message requesting he call me back so we could engage with them during this period of suspension, and I've received no contact. Just so you're aware, this has never happened to me before as a licensing officer in Portsmouth for 5 years. Premises will engage with us and the local authority prior to any hearings, not to negotiate, not to withdraw, but to look at what conditions may be relevant in order for them to open and operate a safe business. There has been no contact. I know that the licensing team have also, Portsmouth County Licence, the PCC licence team have also been in contact with the premises management team to engage, and it's been extremely problematic in identifying who is in charge and who the DPS is. The previous DPS, as we've already seen, Enrico Labina, has been spoken to and advised us that he hasn't worked at the premises in over a year. When a venue has a number of breaches of the premises licence that this venue has had, there is significant cause of concern from the police licensing team. When the same venue fails to engage with the police licensing team, then our options are significantly limited. As an experienced operator of a number of premises, my expectation would have been that contact would have been received from the DPS and or the premises licence holder during the last 28 days, and I certainly would have expected to see them here today. The Chief Officer of Police believes that the only recommendation that can be made in this case to promote the licensing objectives, namely the prevention of crime and disorder, is a revocation of the premises licence. As to date, I have no evidence that the venue has changed any of its processes to be compliant with its premises licence. Furthermore, I have no evidence that would suggest that if this premises were to reopen, then there would not be further 136 offences being committed or incidents of serious crime and disorder. Finally, adding conditions to a premises licence that's not being adhered to in the first place would be futile and doesn't reduce the risk, that significant risk that this venue presents to us as the police. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I'll start with you. No?
Christ, where to begin on that one? I think I haven't got any particular questions because obviously, as you say, we went through the initial thing a month ago now, and I've read the pack in detail, and I think it's quite obvious and correct that there's quite a lot of restrictions already put on the premises licence in relation to CCTV, the operation, the SIA staff, so on and so forth. It is quite a detailed licence of mandatory conditions, and obviously they've not been adhered to. And obviously you've mentioned as well that the DPS wasn't even aware of the licence. So I guess I just want clarity from your position of, is that on the scale, you've been here 5 years as you stated, and obviously you've done a lot of these cases. Where does this scale on the kind of the seriousness of other cases you've been involved in versus this one? Is this quite a severe case, or is it, you know, a little less?
So in terms of the incidents I've dealt with worse incidents, it'd be fair to say that, and I think as a committee you've probably sat on things where there have been worse incidents, but never have I seen such a failing of the premises in relation to their responsibilities under the Licensing Act. Of the conditions on the licence, there would be in breach of probably 6 of the however many there are on there. And the fact that those things have then gone on to frustrate a serious investigation into a GBH within 10 means that they cannot possibly be promoting the licensing objectives. Certainly an area we don't play in very often, but public safety is a huge factor. But the prevention of crime and disorder, there is none. And you know, woe be it for me to tell how someone to run their premises, but on the second night of opening of a premises that has been closed for a period of time, you would be present as the DPS, and if not, then certainly someone in responsibility, maybe the premises licence holder. What you wouldn't do is put 2 staff in who hadn't seen the premises licence and allow them to run. In all honesty, the SIA have come out of this very well, because it was them that identified the drunkenness to the bar staff. Now, as we all know, that's not their job. You know, the point of sale is your fracture point for the sales of intoxicating liquor to people who are intoxicated. So the bar staff should be stopping that sale. There is a fine line between drunkenness and intoxication, but I don't think there's any doubt that people leaving this premises based on their behaviour were drunk.
Yeah, which, I mean, that does lead me actually onto one of the questions I had, because the conditions state that door supervisors to assist in managing customers leaving the venue and those remaining in the vicinity. That's actually part of the conditions on page 23 of the report. Would your expert analysis be that the SIA staff didn't, you know, do as well as they could with protecting the customers once they've left the venue and those that remain in the vicinity?
I think in fair to the SIA, they have done what they thought was appropriate with no guidance or direction from the management team at the pub. So from my point of view, when I look at these things, yes, the SIA are a key part in this, but they need direction from people in authority within the business. And because there was no one in authority within the business at that point in time, there was no direction. They did what they thought was right. In fact, the injured person was in the recovery position. They phoned police, ambulance as well. So they've actually gone quite a long way to redeeming themselves in my eyes. There's some really minor breaches around the colour of the jackets they had on. I haven't laboured that point because it's not relevant, and when we're dealing with the nature of the breaches that we're dealing with, actually there's far more important things, I think. I think the point that will continuously sit with me is you open a business and you didn't look at your premises licence. For me, as a police licensing officer for some years now, it's ludicrous and dangerous.
No further questions, Chair. Thank you.
Is there any other members that want to ask any questions? I will leave it to sum up then. We'll start with Derek.
No, members, I don't think I need to add anything further other than just to touch on the point that PC Vincent has made. It is really, really unusual that a premises licence holder who wants to save their licence and protect their business hasn't actually engaged with us, and they're not here today. I think that speaks volumes.
I think I've made my point of how seriously we are taking this as a police licensing team. Normally when I would come to committee, I would offer up other options, it is fair to say, if they are appropriate, and seeking a revocation is a very last resort for us. But from the point of view of my job as a police licensing officer is to keep people safe. And there is no way I can do this under this current premises management and its current premises licence. Even if the licence was being adhered to, there would still be serious concerns about us regarding the management at the premises. That hasn't even come into play. And as I say, that we make every effort to engage with the premises licence holder and the DPS because the Licensing Act says we should, and it's the first port of call for us. What I'm not going to do is continuously chase someone to help them protect their licence when they don't care. Thank you.
Thank you. I will adjourn for 30 minutes. Go on.
Thank you, Chair. For the benefit of the tape, whilst we're just about to go into closed session, could I formally invite Derek to just check downstairs to see if any persons have actually arrived today and come back if they have. I've been here before with regard to people attending premises, i.e. being in the court precinct and then suddenly not being in the right court. So let's just check that before we go into closed session. Thank you. Thank you, Derek. For the purpose of the tape, having checked, no other persons were present for the relevant licensing hearing. Thank you.
Perfect. So we'll go into closed session and I'll say no earlier than 30 minutes. Thank you.